In this video, I take you guys through the exact B2B SEO strategy that our B2B clients have been using to get quantifiable success from their SEO. I'll take you through the ways to tech audit the site properly to get maximum impact, how to prioritize technical fixes, how to content audit a site effectively, how to review the conversion rate optimization, the architecture and the messaging of the site, how to do competition analysis, and subsequently how to package all of this up into a content roadmap for the next 12 to 18 months. I'll then finally take you through the art of link building, how to link audit, the concept of entity stacking, and building authority. Enjoy. This is the SEO framework that we've rolled out across hundreds of B2B clients over the years. And today I'm going to talk you through each of the elements. I'm going to show you how they all work together and how you can package it up into a nice strategic roadmap for the next 12 months. We've done this across many B2B industries. So whether you're a B2B SaaS, whether you're a brick and mortar store that has stores all over the UK or even globally, this will be a framework that can work for you. It might just take a little bit of tweaking or adapting in certain areas. So what I've tried to do is accommodate this for everyone, but by and large, this is the framework you should be following if you want to generate strong ROIs from your SEO, strong ROIs from your website. You should also consider this if you're looking to engage a marketing agency, an SEO agency, a content agency, because these are some of the key things that you should be looking out for and challenging them on when considering hiring them. So a technical audit can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. Look, simply put, we want to analyze the ability for a search engine to crawl, render, and index the content that exists on the site so that it can subsequently serve it to a user searching specific query looking for your solution. So a technical audit allows us to get underneath the bonnet of the website. It allows us to assess the makeup of the website, namely the code base and any deficiencies that we think might be impact one of the three things above. Another thing to consider as well is that whenever we audit and fix something, subsequently there's going to be a cost associated with that, whether that's time, resource, or actual money to do these things. So as an agency, we need to make sure that everything we're auditing and then recommending as a fix has the potential to provide an ROI in some form. So it's also important to consider that. The final thing to consider with this as well is that Google themselves are, of course, a private company. So this means that, of course, it costs them to crawl any website they come across. So what we want to do is make our information as easily found as possible. We want to make the pages easily crawlable. We want them to be easily indexable, because ultimately that will then save Google time and money crawling our website. So when you start thinking about these things in cost terms, in real terms, it becomes far easier to subsequently prioritize the issues that you want to look for and the issues that you found, of course. So consider that before going into this. And if you were to speak to a web developer or an agency or an SEO who wants to tech audit a site, make it clear that we only want to audit the elements that are actually going to have impact on a crawler's ability to find, render, and index our content. One of the best places you can actually find areas or issues that need to be addressed for a technical audit is actually in Google Search Console themselves. In their error report, they'll give you non-indexable URLs, they'll give you excluded URLs, they'll give you pages that have issues with canonical tags. This is a really good place to start, and it's actually made it easier for an SEO to diagnose and subsequently fix a lot of these issues as well. So at a minimum, what we want to do is identify how many templates the site has and ensure that we've at least audited each one of those templates. So typically a B2B website may be made up of their homepage, of course, service pages, product pages, blog pages, a contact us page, a privacy policy, a modern slavery policy. Each of these pages may have a slightly different template, And what we want to do is audit that template so that if we find any issues within that template, we can fix that issue at the template level, and then that will roll out across X amount of pages, depending on how many pages are tied to that template, right? So again, trying to think of cost and time implications of doing this. That's where we may get a developer involved to fix some of these things. But common issues we come across, key pages aren't indexed, or key pages are quite hard to find because of a flat menu structure, i.e. they just have home, about, blog, contact us in the menu. They don't have any deeper pages sort of trailing from the submenu. They don't have any child pages rather from that submenu, and therefore all the key pages are sort of buried into level 2, level 3, and sometimes level 4 within the website. Therefore, it's going to cost a crawler more money to find those pages subsequently. So typically we'll recommend rolling out like mega menus, bigger menus. The internal linking in general might be quite poor. We might only have key service pages linked to them from the menu, nowhere else. Poor canonical setup. So canonicals are 404 and 301ing. It's confusing Google. Site speed, not typically an issue these days, if I'm honest. The only time I'd actually look to improve the speed of the site is if it's notably slow, sort of above 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds. If you're on WordPress, WP Rocket is a great plugin to use to play around with and try and optimize that as well. So you might actually be able to neglect having to go to a developer to fix something at the code base for this as well, which would, of course, save money making that change. If you're at 3 seconds, don't necessarily spend the time and money trying to get it to 2 seconds. I don't see that being ROI positive. Could be wrong. The only times that I would go against that piece of advice is if you're generating sort of circa 100K visitors a month. Saving that extra second for each of those visitors will likely generate increased ROI. But if you're doing 1,000, 2,000 visitors a month or something like that, I really wouldn't bother with it. So a lot of the elements we might check the page speed insights, check the Google Search Console report. Do you have crawler anomalies? Do you have excluded URLs? Do you have non-indexable URLs? When we dig into this, do you have internal 301s? Do you have internal 404s? Do you have redirect chains? And you have a lot of heavy images across the site as well. Is it making it difficult for it to load on mobile and things like that? Again, a lot of these things need to be prioritized, right? But you just need to make sure you cover all ground. So even though large images might not necessarily be slowing down a page, for example, it's always good to just have a record if that is the case, because you can roll out a best practice with any future image upload to say, look, we want to cap this at 100 kilobytes, 200 kilobytes, something like that. Thankfully, a lot of us have 5G now, right? So even heavy images can be loaded quite quickly, but it's just a good thing to keep in the back pocket and consider as well. Now, of course, kind of in the roadmap, I move on to the content audit here. But as I said, you can do this simultaneously with the technical audit. Onto the content audit. So, of course, the technical audit is looking at the makeup of the site, how it's built, largely the code base. Now we want to have a look at how Google is perceiving your site. And again, we can do a lot of this through Google Search Console. Now, of course, one of the limitations of using the traditional method of Google Search Console is that it will only give you 1,000 rows of data in the last 16 months. One of the key benefits of using Search Analytics for Sheets is that you can actually connect your Google Search Console with Google Sheets via the Google Search Console API, and it will give you unlimited rows of data within that same time frame. So unlimited rows. So if your site is generating hundreds and thousands or even millions of impressions every year, we can export every single keyword that has generated a single impression for your site within that time frame, which is fantastic. So not only are we being able to make content decisions based on more data, but this also gives us a gold mine worth of additional keywords that we can use, that Google is associating us for, that can present optimization opportunities moving forward as well. It's absolutely fantastic. So our process for content auditing is connecting this Search Analytics for Sheets with Google Sheets, using our Search Console API for that specific client. What we do is we do a number of exports. So would export every single page that has generated at least one click in the last 12 months, but also the keyword that has generated the most impressions for that page in the last 12 months. And of course, what we'll do is we'll remove brand from this as well, because of course, brand can massively skew the data that we're trying to find, right? Once we have our master list of page keyword impression, we'll then group the pages into different categories based on the site setup. So we'll have a category based on the product and service of the business, blog category, and then we might have sort of pages that are related to the business privacy policy and things like that. Within those categories, we might then subcategorize. For example, if we've got an HR client and they've got hundreds of pages on payroll, performance management, absence tracking, holiday tracking, for example, we'll then subcategorize because the data becomes easy to consume. And then what we will then finally do is we'll also run all these pages into a crawler like Screaming Frog or Sitebowl, for example, and this will give us the status codes and the indexability of each of those pages as well. So there's a couple of key things that we're then subsequently left with. Firstly, if we see a number of pages are 404ing, but they've generated a substantial number of clicks in the last 12 months, we might say to the client, well, this category of page are 404ing. We can see that they generated X amounts of clicks in the last 12 months. Was there a reason that this page category was removed? Should we bring it back? What do you want to do with it? We can then run a formula to highlight any duplicates. So what this will do is then show us any pages that are competing for the same or for similar keywords, basically, and we can then subsequently figure out what to do with them. Do we collate them together? Do we prioritize one and de-optimize the other? But it's a really good way to see keyword cannibalization that could exist across the site as well. So those sort of two items I would see as kind of the foundational checks. It will move us forward, but it's more fixing instead of optimizing, right? And obviously the key point of a content audit is we want to identify which pages we can optimize as part of our content roadmap. So what we can then do is have a look at any keywords that are potentially positioned sort of 10 to 40. Of course, you can go maybe further, 10 to 70, 80, 90, even up to 100. Have a look at those keywords, have a look at the pages that they're appearing for from an impression point of view, and then determine whether there'd be good pages and good keywords to subsequently optimize for. So in some cases, we'll find clients are sitting on an absolute goldmine of content and keywords that we can actually begin building a content roadmap of optimizations out of before we even do any external sort of keyword research tasks as well. So moving into the CROAM audit. Now, this isn't technically part of the content audit, but it's something that potentially could feed back into the content audit, depending on what we may find. So the CROAM audit or the Chrome audit is our audit to assess the CRO, the architecture, and the messaging of a client's website. This came about because we actually found a lot of messaging across a lot of client sites weren't quite aligned with what they would tell us during onboarding, i.e. they would say that their software serves this target audience market, but the messaging across the site wouldn't necessarily reflect that. So in some cases, it may have been we've ranked the site for their commercial keywords. We know that those commercial keywords are typically good converters from, say, Google Ads, where we'll build our custom landing page, different messaging, and all sort of various things like that. But from what they tell us in the client onboarding to what actually exists on their infrastructure, there'd be a lot of dissonance between the two. And in some cases, we've been able to go in and sort of say, look, the messaging doesn't quite align with what you've told us the product actually does, or it's not clear in some ways, or it's just really ambiguous, right? It takes a bit of thinking as to try and decipher what the messaging is trying to say and subsequently what the client does. And we don't want to do that. As soon as the prospect hits the site, we want to communicate exactly what we do, who we're good for, and a potential sort of benefit, right? So working backwards a little bit, that's on our messaging, some of the architecture as well. Again, slightly linked to what we might find in actually the technical audit and some of the internal link work as well, is that actually the website architecture wasn't quite reflective of what a sort of ideal user journey should be. And then finally, the conversion rate optimization, the CRO. So the actual page flow wouldn't necessarily make a lot of sense. It's probably the easiest way to simplify what we're trying to say there. So this isn't necessarily saying your color palette is this and your call to action buttons are this, but actually looking at competitors, looking at your client insights document, knowing what your software or what your business does, the page flow doesn't quite represent that in the best possible way. And in some cases, it might be that they're lacking social signals, testimonials. It might be that they're talking more about themselves instead of the customer, or it might be that they're not talking in the topic of kind of benefits and solutions and too much on the features, for example. It could be a variety of things. But this Chrome audit that we do can kind of feed into the content audit, because it might be that messaging work needs to be done. It might be that actually we need to roll out a lot of competitor pages on the site. For example, we can see that our competitors are talking about us versus them. They're saying we're good for this and they're good for that. And actually we need to do that as well. So we need to have a look at rolling out additional pages that talk about keyword plus alternatives or X versus Y, for example. It might be that our competitors do a free trial, whereas we're offering a free demo. So again, a lot of this may feed back into the content audit and subsequently the content roadmap that we'll come onto. This is a task that sits separately to the content audit. So again, whilst we're doing the content audit and the Chrome audit, we can also at the same time do the keyword research piece as well. Now, the keyword research piece serves two purposes for us. The first one is internal and used to confirm that the keyword we identify from the content audit for the subsequent page is the quote unquote best keyword for that page. So just because Google has presented X number of impressions of that keyword for a certain page, it doesn't necessarily mean that that keyword is actually the best keyword for that page. So that's the first purpose. The second purpose of the keyword research is, of course, to identify external keyword opportunities that the site does not appear for. So for this, typically what we'll try and do is identify every single keyword that falls within the category of which the business is operating in. What we'll then subsequently do is cluster each of these keywords, make a note as to whether they're bottom of funnel, mid funnel, top of funnel. So the top of funnel is the what is, how does, more of the question sort of based keywords. The mid funnel might be something around like keyword strategy. So for example, in this context, it might be B2B SEO strategies, B2B SEO frameworks. It sort of indicates a little bit of intent, but they're not quite ready to buy. So typically mid-funnel keywords are usually quite good for white paper downloads, for example, if the business has a strategy of utilizing those resources. And then of course, bottom of funnel are the commercial-based keywords. Performance management software, HR software, for example, they indicate intent. Now, I'm not going to go into the complexities of each of the keyword types, but broadly speaking, we will aim to categorize each of these keywords with the goal of sort of working up the funnel. Our sort of North Star goal with a lot of the clients is we want to ensure that we have a piece of content that targets every single keyword that operates in the category. Now, we know from experience that the more content we create, ensuring that that content ticks a number of the sort of content boxes, and we've got like a 40-point sort of checklist as to what clarifies sort of quality content these days. I think I've got that in another video somewhere. Now, the more quality content that we have, the higher the likeliness that Google will consider us experts within a certain category, and therefore the higher the likeliness that Google will rank us for certain keywords within that category. So the keyword research, obviously it looks back And there are other things that you consider with your keyword research, such as getting subject matter experts in that have a real sort of foothold within the industry to discuss topics that are up and coming within the industry, that are quite hot within the industry, that the keyword research tools won't necessarily pull out. But being able to have a piece of content that can at least rank, or at least target, I should say, each of the keywords within that category is going to set the site and the business up for success in the future. Additionally, if we have a paid media team that's doing Google Ads, use their keyword research to expedite the keyword research process for those bottom of funnel, for those commercial terms in particular. The paid media team should be able to tell us which keywords have the highest rate of conversion into a final customer. So I'm not just talking about keywords that convert the best on their landing pages and are just a number in their Google Ads platform. I'm talking about the keywords that turn into customers at the best price. So speak with them, liaise with them, see what data they have that can feed in to our keyword research process, into our content audit, and subsequently into our content roadmap as well. Some of the softwares that you may use: Surfer SEO, SEMrush, Ahrefs, Keywords Everywhere. There's loads of keyword research tools these days. A lot of them do the same thing. But using Google Ads data, if you have it, is absolutely integral to getting this bit right. Now, as we move to the content roadmap, what we're essentially doing is collating all the findings from the content audit, all the findings from the Chrome audit, all the findings from the keyword research, and packaging this up into a priority list of keywords and content that we're going to deliver over a set time period. So typically for us, when we engage a B2B client, the start of the second month will be a 6 to 12 month content roadmap listing out anywhere from, could be 10 to 100 keywords that we're going to target. And then based on what that content looks like, it might be new content. It might be that we're creating top of funnel content for them, mid funnel content, bottom of funnel content. It might be that we've recommended competitor content for them. Depending on what the type of content is, will depend on whether it will sit in the marketing team, the content team, the product marketing team, for example. But typically the content roadmap is split out either into new content or content optimizations. Sorry, this shouldn't say new content here, just optimizations. The content optimizations will come out of the content audit. So we found a handful of pages, they're ranking page 2 for these keywords. We are going to optimize those pages for those keywords. And we've also substantiated that those keywords are the best keywords because we can't find anything better from the keyword research process. So we're now at a point where we have a content roadmap. We have at least sort of 6, 12, 18 plus months worth of content keywords that we're going to target for the business. We've prioritized them based on their commercial intent or potentially new sort of business categories that we want to go into. We've identified who's going to be the owner of that content and what that content type is as well. And now we're coming on to the final pillar, which is the link building. Again, as I said, we don't necessarily have to start this when we've completed the content roadmap. As an agency, we start this at the same time that we start the content audit and the technical audit as well, purely because it requires a slightly different specialism. We don't want to bottleneck any of our processes as well. We want to do everything all at once because that will help expedite the success for that client, right? So link building, the art of gaining a link from a third-party website back to your website. Sounds simple enough, but there's a lot of complexity that goes into it. What I've tried to do is simplify this as much as I can. I do have some other videos that go a little bit deeper into the link building side of things, but what I've tried to do is just position it as sort of 2 pillars that I'll come on to. So the first thing that we start with is a link audit. So our outreach manager And if you're internal at a B2B and you're an SEO or a marketing manager, you can also do this yourself using sites like Ahrefs, for example. So we always start with a link audit. So essentially what we're doing is we're looking at our own link portfolio against our competitor link portfolios based on the keywords that we want to go after. So if we're looking internally at our own profile, we're trying to identify where the bulk of our links have come from. We'll have a look at what could have driven those links. We're also trying to identify sort of any toxic or bad links, but typically Google's quite good at just sort of nullifying these. So we don't really do that many sort of disavows moving forward now. We just want to understand what the link portfolio looks like. So some of these things are, do we have the essential sort of fundamental links in place, or the EEAT signals, off-page signals that we're looking for. We'll also look externally at competitors as well. So what are the link gaps? What sort of links do they have that we don't? Other sort of things we want to ensure that any link we are pointing back to the site is pointed back to a 200 status code page, so a page that loads successfully and not a 404. Otherwise, we don't gain that link equity, essentially. So some of the things we might look for in particular as well is looking at sort of anchor text portfolios. So how aggressive have we gone from exact and partial match keywords? How aggressive have our competitors gone for the same sorts of keywords that they want to appear for? Again, how often are links being built as well versus competition? So are we building 5, 10, 15, 20 links a month? Are our competitors doing 100, 150, 200 links a month? I think the important thing to consider when reviewing the link portfolio is that you should always benchmark it against competition and the market. So we always split up the sort of link acquisition process into two sort of broad categories. So we have the entity stacking, which are essentially the links that we use to build trust. So these are typically links that most businesses should have, assuming that their site has been operating for a number of years. But we always just do a bit of a sense check. So things such as social signals, so ensuring you've got a nice social media presence, ensuring that you've got localized citations, so it could be in Yelp, Yellow Pages, newspaper sort of listings. These literally list out the name and address and phone number of your business as well. Web 2.0s, so if you had the CEO, the MD sort of contribute across Medium, adding their sort of thoughts to the industry, or they have a blog, for example, review sites such as G2, Trustpilot, reference sites, Wikipedia, Reddit, Quora, even having like a Crunchbase, having your business set up on Crunchbase, a good sort of signal that depicts trust, that you're a real business, you really do operate, as crazy as that sounds, signal that Google will look for. And then running some sort of PR. So if you've got a product launch, if you've got a comment on an industry trend, for example, and then acquiring links from places such as Yahoo, AP News, and those sort of sites that will post sort of press releases and get syndicated across hundreds of different domains. So these ones are sort of to help build trust, and they're essential links that you need before you do any of the authority building. So the authority building typically correlate with an improvement in ranking. So things such as campaign pitching, niche edit, guest post, digital PR, and then reactive sort of comments via Harrow and press plugs. And as an agency, whenever we look at a business and their link portfolio, will then help us prioritize what we need to do across this to help achieve success in the shortest period of time. So the beauty is that these are kind of a one and done. Once we've done them, we can forget about them. We don't need to look at them again. So the authority links, these are what we focus on from a long-term standpoint as an agency. So we'll do a lot of campaign pitching, for example. We'll try and ensure that the velocity matches that of a competitor velocity, for example, that's also ranked or is going after the same sort of keywords. So typically it might be that we build 5 links a month or 10 links a month or 20 links a month, depending on competitiveness of keywords, velocity, and all these other great things that go into it as well. And I think that about wraps it up. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you guys have found this really helpful. If you've listened to this point, can you please comment B2B SEO strategy in the comments. It helps for the algorithm. And can you also like and subscribe to the channel as well? I'm going to try and do a lot more sort of B2B SEO, B2B content, B2B marketing videos that give you guys sort of real actionable insight into what we do as a B2B marketing agency to help our B2B clients. If you have any questions, any comments, I'd love to hear them. Please just comment below. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next video.